Hey there, my name is Alex, and over the past few years I've been keeping bees. Now, when I first started beekeeping, I thought that it would be a simple case of getting a box of bees, and then once a year you get to go inside the hive, pull out the honey, and very little work was needed. But it turns out that if you want a consistent, successful honey harvest, you actually need to put in a little bit of effort. Now, the jobs of a beekeeper involve swarm control. This is basically trying to stop your bees from swarming. If they swarm, then you lose half your bees. So there's manipulations you can do within the hive to stop them from swarming. Regular inspections are needed of every hive to make sure that they are healthy, free of disease, and that they have enough food. At some times of the year when food is scarce, you need to make sure that you are feeding them to keep them going. Then in the winter, there's a lot of work with cleaning all the equipment. Every winter you want to sterilize everything and make sure everything is clean for the following year. Basically what I'm saying is there's way more to it than I initially thought. Now, one thing that I found really interesting over the past 3 years of keeping bees is that some bees are really calm and some bees are really angry. Obviously, beekeepers want to have calm bees. Calm bees means that they're easier to work with, they don't sting you as much, and it generally makes beekeeping a much more enjoyable experience. Now, over the past few years, I've got bees from various different sources. I've been given bees by fellow beekeepers. I have split up my hives from one hive into two and then lets the bees raise a new queen. I've also caught swarms from the trees. And one thing I've been experimenting with this year is getting hold of queen bees that a beekeeper, a bee farmer, has actually bred specifically to have good genetics that beekeepers want. Now, the breeding of bees is much like how farm animals and plants and pets are cultivated. It's called selective breeding. You get two parents that you like the traits of, you put them together, and then the offspring are hopefully more of what you wanted. However, with bees, it's slightly more tricky because of the mating process. Basically, the queen bee doesn't mate inside the hive with one of the male bees. The queen bee actually flies out and then mates with male bees in the local area. So it happens in the air, it happens away from where humans can get to. So it's actually quite hard for beekeepers when they're breeding bees to choose both parents. There are methods which humans have used, such as artificial insemination, basically where you insert the sperm into a queen bee. That way you know both parents. And another way is to do something called island mating. It's basically where you have a small island surrounded by water, you bring all the bees to that island that you want to mate with each other, and then obviously you know the whole population of that island is just the bees that you put there. And so they go out, mate, and you know both the parents. Now, why am I telling you all this? Well, it's because recently I got my hands on a colony of bees which is so calm. And the reason I'm so excited about this is because I don't get stung. The bees don't sting. They've been bred to be so calm and so gentle. Anyway, in this video, we're going to go back in time a couple of weeks to a day where I drove into Wales and met up with two very experienced bee farmers. I learned loads about beekeeping, and I also got to take home my very own colony of bees, which are the best bees I've ever had. You couldn't picture a more beautiful scene. You've got all this, I think, cow parsley, greater stitchwort, buttercups, many other things. I realised that the best thing about starting beekeeping was the places it has taken me to and the people I've met through it. The beekeeping is obviously interesting, but it's sort of a medium for doing all these other things and going to all these amazing places. It's like fishing, in that fishing is the excuse for going and sitting by a pond for a day and drinking beer. Hello. Oh yes, I have, yeah. Oh great, thank you. Well, that was Richard, one of the guys I'm meeting today. And we're going into a field. This is definitely the most beautiful apiary site I think I've ever seen. Richard has created something so nice here. Beehives everywhere, these really nice willow trees, a little stream that flows through, and then you've obviously got the hills surrounding the area. It's so nice. It really inspires me as well, coming to places like this.
My name is Lawrence Edwards and I own a company called Black Mountain Honey with my wife Helen. I started beekeeping maybe like 10 or 11 years ago. Within about 4 or 5 years, it had gone up to like 150 colonies. Way more than I ever knew what I was doing with, and it just grew completely out of control. But it started with that love for food and the love for honey.
As well as selling honey, Lawrence's business also sells colonies of bees and also queen bees with the help of longtime beekeeper Richard.
I've been an amateur beekeeper since I was about 14 with my father, and then I took some time out. Basically in life I realised I got made redundant quite a few times, and I thought I'd do something on my own. And so I've been a professional, if you want to call it that, for about 14 years.
And how many bee colonies are you looking after?
About 750.
How much time do you spend looking after these bees?
Every day, bar a Sunday.
So you take Sunday off?
Yeah.
That's good.
I think there's 3 real ways that you can start beekeeping. There's getting a nuke, which is buying like a box of bees like this on the frames already with the queen. The colony is effectively ready to go. A way that's very popular in America is a package. So what you get as a package is you get a big mesh box full of bees, about 3 pounds of bees, and then they give you a queen with it as well, but you don't get any frames. So it's kind of up to you to dump all of the bees into your hive, put the queen in and hope they stay put. And then the third and final way is to try and attract a swarm, or to go and collect a swarm, which is again just a big cluster of bees that should have a mated queen in it. The nuke is by far and away the simplest way of doing it, probably the most expensive way of doing it as well, but it means that you've got bees, you've got brood, you've got a queen, and they will stay put. So it's a pretty sound investment. So on this Payne's Poly nuke here, this is the nuke that gets sent out to all of our customers, whether they come and collect them or they get delivered. So when you buy them through the post, they come like that. And that's really important. There's mesh on the top, mesh on the bottom, and it helps bees keep cool throughout the postal service, or if they're being transited in cars. These bees here are very carefully selected and bred to be as calm as that there. So you can see I've got 3 bees up on the crown board, and I've lifted that up now, and not a single bee is coming up to even say hello. The way that a nucleus is generally set up, you have a brood cluster, which is where the queen lays all of her eggs and where all of the brood emerges, and then towards the outer sides you have your pollen, and then towards further outside of that you have your honey stores. So we will have a look inside here and we'll go through all of the different bits of the frames. And like when I think back to when I used to keep bees, and you know, I'd have my bee suit on and I'd have the smoker there, and even with my veil up I'd still be getting stung through the arm and just blitzed by the bees, and then you have these queens instead and these bees, and I just thought it makes beekeeping so much more pleasurable, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. Right, so here we go, we found the queen. Beautiful red marked F1 Buckfast queen that's reared in the UK in this very apiary here by Richard, and you can see her there. Really nice big long abdomen, which the queen uses to go down and lay into the cells here. You can just see here that they're completely oblivious. The queen's wandering around, all she's interested in doing is laying eggs. And this is really what we go for, is super calm bees. I'm interested to know, like in comparison to your bees, Alex, like what are these different? Is this kind of, do your bees behave like this, or?
These are the calmest bees I've ever seen, for sure.
Cool.
Yeah, I would definitely have a few around the face.
Yeah.
Getting interested. My bees aren't stingy. They don't really sting. They're just
buzzy.
Definitely buzzy,
yeah,
and coming off the frames. No, these are incredibly chilled. I haven't seen a single one come off the frame.
No. Right, so I'm going to put that frame off with the queen over to one side, really carefully putting her back in, making sure none of the bees are crushed. Now you'll see on the next one here, you've got this brace comb in between, which is the way that the bees like to set up their nest. They connect everything up together. And it's at that point there where you get that little break, that's where they'll get you. If they want to come up, if they're angry, that would be the point. On both sides here, we've got a lovely frame of brood. And you'll see on here, I'll see if I can pick you out a couple of new bees, because you can kind of tell the difference. So, that one there, you see like the different colour of that bee there? Just a slightly lighter shade, a little bit more fluffy. Didn't really know what's going on. So that bee there is maybe a day old, couple of days old. An interesting thing to note on here though, this is a great frame for showing you all the different things. So if I just move these bees out of the way here, that bit there, that's capped honey, so that's what the bees eat. This here is capped worker brood. So you get worker brood, which is the females in the colony, they do all the work. And then down here, that's capped drone brood. So that takes a little bit longer to emerge, 24 days. And they're the boys that go out and mate with the queens. And then in this corner over here, we've got pollen. So the bees will half fill those cells there with pollen, and that's the protein that they use to feed the young to ensure that the colony can kind of build up and thrive.
How do you go about transporting a beehive? How do I take this home?
It's something that we've worked on for quite a few years now, and there's no perfect formula for this. You basically have to get this in the box here back to your house, and you want to maintain as many of the bees that are in there as possible, but the worst thing that can happen is that the bees can overheat. So there's a lot of bees in there, there's a lot of brood in there, both of them give off huge amounts of heat, and unless you have some way to dissipate that heat, then the bees they'll just collapse, and you just end up with a big box of dead bees, and believe me, it is pretty horrific. And then all we do, if Richard just passed me one of these over here, is that instead of putting this plastic crown board back on, all we do is we'll obviously put the other frame back in, make sure that there's no bees around the edge like this, and we just come back every time. You spend there most of the time just flicking bees off, and then all you do is you just pop that back on there. So if we were sending this in the post, we'd put a screw in each corner there, big 80mm screw with a big head to keep that lid firmly on. And then down at the front here, all we would do is just close that round to this kind of ventilated mesh side, and then place 2 screws over there. So it's completely sealed up at the front, completely sealed up at the top, but you've got this amazing ventilation both at the top and the bottom, which means that the bees can use it to kind of keep themselves cool. So if I'm sending these out in the post, what I do as well is I get like a big water sprayer, and just where Richard brings the nukes up to me, I give them a good spray of water, and you can hear it. It's like an air conditioning unit. You spray them, and all of a sudden you just hear, and it's the bees evaporating that water off to keep themselves nice and cool. And then before they go in the post, we give them a real good dousing of water again, and then that sees them through. If you're taking it back in a car, we always just recommend to people keep it as cool as you can. So air conditioning on, spray the bees, keep them nice and cool, water on the top, out of direct sunlight. As soon as they arrive with the customers the next day, we send emails out to people with a long list of instructions. But basically what you need to do is you take your nuke and you need to go and place it into its final position in the apiary where you want to keep it.
You're coming with me, you bees. It's like walking to work with a suitcase, but instead it's a bee case.
The box is in position. All we need to do now is transfer them out of this travel box into a full-size beehive. And luckily I have a beehive in my van, which is ready to go in this space. So we've got a brood box, which goes on top of here. And now all we're going to do is take all the frames out of this box and put them into this box here. Simple as that, really. Frame 3, 4, 5, and this frame has the queen on. She's going in. So we know the queen is in there now. I can just shake the rest of the bees in here. Put on a lid. And there we go, we've got a brand new beehive in the apiary. We're now up to 7 hives, so my aim is to go through this winter with 9 or 10. Stay tuned to see how that hive develops. It's going to be really interesting to see how large we can get it over the next few months of summer, and we might even get some honey from it too. I want to say a big thank you to Lawrence from Black Mountain Honey and Richard. It was great to hang out with them yesterday. I learned loads. If you're starting beekeeping and you want to get your hands on a box of bees like I did yesterday, then check out the links in the video description to see where you can get a box of bees from. Also, I'll leave a link to Lawrence's YouTube channel where you can learn everything you need to know about beekeeping. When I was getting into beekeeping, I watched loads of Lawrence's videos and they really helped me get started, so definitely check them out. Thanks for watching this video. I'll see you soon and I'll give you another update on the bees.